Hi everyone. When you are doing some academic writing, be it writing your thesis, writing an article for a journal, one of your aims is that all your readers should get what you are trying to convey, your intended meaning. And these readers include your teachers, your guide, the editors of the journals to which you will be submitting the article, the peer reviewers, the readers of those articles and all. So to achieve that, to make your writing clear and effective, one of the important units to which you have to pay a lot of attention is your sentences. So in this series of videos, there will be 6 of them. We are going to discuss how to make your sentences clear, effective and concise. Let us start. Express only one idea in one sentence. So what this exactly means, let us see an example first. Here is a sentence from a published article. Type 2 diabetes mellitus is a group of metabolic disorder in which pancreatic islet beta cells do not secrete insulin adequately and hyperglycemic condition occurs due to varying degrees of and so many reasons they have given. So basically one mistake, one problem with this sentence is that it packs lot of information, like what is diabetes mellitus and what is the basic pathology happening there and what are the various causes for that and all. So there is a lot of information there. Because of that the sentence is too long and it will take the reader some time to read it again and again and understand what exactly is meant. So how to simplify this, how to as I told you, how to have only one information in one sentence. It is simple. You can split it into two. Basically what you can do, like for example if you take this sentence, what you can do here, these etiologies you can split into another sentence. So what you can have here is type 2 diabetes mellitus is a group of metabolic disorder in which pancreatic beta cells do not secrete insulin adequately and hyperglycemic condition occurs. That much and you can stop there. After that you can have another sentence like these are the reasons, like that way. So that is the the first tip that we are discussing here. So then some of you may feel like here is also one additional information that a group of metabolic disorder. So that is basically like we are having again two sets of information there, right? Type 2 diabetes mellitus is a group of metabolic disorder. Then also what happens there as the pathology, that part is also there. But it is okay. I did not say that like you should have only one piece of information. No, it is not like that. You can have one idea per sentence. So like this is a part of this information only when it is not very important, when that is not distracting, that is a kind of what they call the parenthetical information, a bit of additional information. That kind of information is okay in a sentence, but it should not be like this, two entirely separate ideas, like the etiology also clubbed into it. That is what you should try to avoid. Now here is another sentence again from one published article. Therefore, an important segment of society, over 30% in tablet computers and 70% in smartphones, has been exposed to these technologies and can be considered now in some form casual gamers. So this again is like a very complicated sentence because there is a lot of information. So again, how to make it adhere to the principle that we discussed, only one idea per sentence. So what you have to do here is this statistics, like how much percentage of people use what kind of devices, no? That does not gel well with the rest of the content. So like you can say therefore an important segment of society has been exposed to these technologies, like that. After that you can have additional sentence in which you can say like out of this population what percentage uses tablet computers and what percentage uses a smartphone. So that is how you pack only one idea in one sentence. How to order your words for emphasis, like you have a sentence and you have one very important word term in that sentence. So where to place that so that it gets the maximum emphasis that it deserves. Actually like many experts say that like the best position to place your most important word is in the end of a sentence. There it gets a lot of punch. And after that, like if you cannot for some reason place it in the end of the sentence, then the beginning of the sentence is the next best position. And like it is not very effective if you place your important words in the middle of a sentence. So let us see an example. It will make this point very clear. Please read this sentence. According to a 2011 systematic review of pharmacological treatment of insomnia in alcohol recovery, the agent with most data supporting its efficacy is trazodone. So basically here you have to mention the name of the molecule and it is placed in the end. So what effect it achieves is that when the reader is going through this particular sentence, they will have some curiosity which molecule is being spoken about, right? They want to know the answer to this question so that they can use the molecule in their patient. So in the end, as a punch, the name is delivered. So that is what I told. This is the best position to place your important words. Now let us see the alternative, how that works. I told you that if you place that word in the middle of a sentence, it may not be very effective. See this version. According to a 2011 systematic review of pharmacological treatment of insomnia in alcohol recovery, trazodone is the agent with most data supporting its efficacy. Again, it is in the middle. That is very conventional, not very emphatic sentence. So I repeat, your most important word, you place that in the end of the sentence. Again, let us understand this principle also with the help of one example. Do brief preventive interventions for patients at suicide risk work. So, which is the subject here and which is the verb here? So, basically it is preventive interventions. And the verb is whether they work. That is what the authors are asking. But again, you can see that between the subject and verb, there is some gap, and they have placed 4 patients at suicide risk in between. So that makes the title a bit confusing and slightly less clear. So how to solve this? I told you, the third tip is that the subject and verb have to be close together. So one option here is to write it like this: do brief preventive interventions work for patients at suicide risk? But again, the meaning slightly changes. It does not convey that these are specific interventions for this population. So that is not right. So when I look at it, one of the best ways to rewrite this in such a way that the meaning is conveyed and there is no confusion is to use the colon that we usually use in titles. We will soon have one presentation on how to write effective titles. There we will discuss about the use of the colon and all. Brief preventive interventions for patients at suicide risk. Do they work? So now what we have done is, for this intervention we have replaced that with a pronoun. So do they work? So basically here the subject and the verb are very close together, so there is no confusion. So otherwise, if you are not doing that, as I is very clear from this particular example, when your subject and verb are very far away from each other, it may be a bit confusing to your readers. And if you place them close together, the readers will not have to reread the sentence again and again, or think about it, ponder about it, etc., to get the exact meaning. So follow this principle, place your subjects and verbs close together. Let us see some more examples. Again, these are from some published articles. The usual diet of the income group from which the patients were drawn consists of a very light breakfast, etc., etc. So here basically, again, it's a long sentence. So here the subject is diet and the verb is consists of. So again, there is some gap between these two. So because of that, again, the reader may have to struggle slightly to understand exactly what this sentence means. So how to solve this, how to make this clearer? Suppose out of habit you have written a sentence like this, or your student has written a sentence like this where the subject and verb are separate, distant from each other. So how to rewrite, how to modify? So here one option I can see is you can pick this out, this income group from which the patients were drawn. So you move that to the beginning. So you can say in the income group from which the patients were drawn, the usual diet consists of. So that way the subject and verb are together. So you can move them to the beginning. All the technical terms and this kind of what kind of sentence that is, all that we will discuss in the next video, where we will be discussing the sentence structure. Here is another sentence from another published article. Increasing awareness among sexually active women and men regarding safe sexual practices and contraception decreases abortions and reduces the risk of ectopic pregnancy. Again, not a very clear effective sentence. It is slightly confusing. You have to again think about it to understand exactly what they are meaning. So again, the problem here is that the subject is awareness and the verbs are decrease and reduces. So they are far away from each other. And another point is a revision. In an earlier video in which we discussed about the use of words, we told about this elegant variation, like using the synonyms of words just for the purpose of variation. No? Decrease abortions, reduces the risk of ectopic pregnancy. Thus, using the same word, either decrease or reduce, would have served the purpose. That is a different topic. I just wanted to remind you about that. And those of you who haven't watched that video, the link is given above. So how to solve this particular sentence? When I was thinking of it, I was not able to find the way we did it in the previous example. Simply moving around the components of the sentence, it was not a very easy solution. It was not yielding any effective sentences. Another reason is that here the subject is awareness, But it is always better to have human subjects in your sentences if possible. That itself will be more attractive, more interesting to your readers. So I rewrote that changing, because who is going to increase the awareness? We, the professionals, will have to. So I used that subject and rewrote it in this manner. To decrease abortions and reduce the risk of ectopic pregnancy, we must increase. So again, the subject and verb are close to each other. Awareness about, so that is it. So that is how you can rewrite sentences, or you should write in the first place your sentences to be effective. You have to place the subject and verb together. Now we are keeping the subject and verb together like that, you have to also keep the modifiers in your sentence, and whatever is being modified, they also have to be together. We will discuss that in detail in one of the coming videos in this series about sentences. Varying the length of subsequent sentences. To show you how important that is, let me show you one fictitious example. This is something I made up. Depression is one of the commonest mental disorders. Physical and mental health have bidirectional relationship. More than 350 million people in the world have depression. Those with chronic diseases have higher rates of depression. Depression may worsen the prognosis of chronic diseases. Depression may be overlooked in those with chronic disease. So you get the idea. You may even feel that are you reading a poem or something, right? Though people usually don't write this manner, agreed, but many a time inadvertently they may end up having many 3-4 sentences with the same length. And even the readers may not remember or recognize that, okay, they are writing different sentences with the same length. They will not think like that, but overall the experience may be a bit jarring for them, a bit boring for them. So how to avoid that? It is simple, try to have your subsequent sentences with different lengths. Let us see an example from one published article. Those of you who are interested can pause the video and read this portion. Not for the content as such, but for the way the authors have arranged the information, the length of the subsequent sentences. So here I have highlighted the alternate sentences. You can see that visually itself how different the lengths of the subsequent sentences are. So basically when the readers are going through this, they will not say that, oh wonderful, they have different lengths, but without them knowing, they will have a smoother reading experience, and obviously as an author, as a writer, that is what you want. So using these 4 techniques, like having only one idea per sentence, then placing your most important word in the end if possible, or in the beginning of the sentence, then having the subject and verb close together, and also varying the lengths of your subsequent sentences. All this use of all these techniques will ensure that your readers have a more smoother experience. They get your point, you get the meaning that you intend without much difficulty. So in this series we have more videos coming. So those of you who haven't subscribed, do subscribe to the channel and press the ring button so that you get a notification when I upload the other videos in the coming days. And also, those of you who haven't watched the previous videos on writing, the links are given here. You do click them and watch them. Thank you.